40 mornings. 40 mornings. Over and over again. Same thing. The Israelites wake up from their tents, get out of their tent, go and make breakfast, and the clock is just ticking closer and closer to that time. So they grab their shields and they grab their spears and whatever they have. For some of them, it's not much. For others, they have a little bit of armor, but they take what they have, and once again, for the 40th morning in a row, they make their way to the battle. You can imagine what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Here we go again. Let's go do this again. Is there going to be anything different today? Is this going to be the same exact thing that we've done 40 days in a row? And the Philistines do the same thing. They get their stuff together, their bronze armor, their bronze shields, their swords, and they head from the other direction. And so we have Israel on one side, and we have the Philistines on the other side. And I'm kind of picturing this in my weird little brain like a middle school dance. Anybody ever been to a middle school dance? It's been a while for me. It's been a while for some of you. For some of you, it's been longer than for me. But that's getting less and less, I see. It's like a middle school dance. And over here, we have the Israelites. And the Israelites are like, they're looking at the Philistines and they say, okay, guys, you ready? On my cue. And they go, we have spirit. Yes, we do. We have spirit. How about you? And they look at each other and like, yeah, that was good. That was good. So then the Philistines look back at them and the Philistines say, we've got Goliath. Yes, we do. We've got Goliath. How about you? And the Israelites go, oh yeah, we're going home. 40 days. 40 days the people of God are being cowards. Let's just call them what they are. The entire army, not one of them is saying to themselves, you know, God gave us this promised land. God brought us out of Egypt. God took the walls of Jericho and made them crumble before us. God raised up Samson, who killed thousands of these people. Do you think he won't come to us again if we just have faith? Not one person. But there's something different about this day. There's one more person there. This young man named David. And it's interesting how he got there. We're not reading through this part of the scripture, but I'm sure you've read it before. What happens is David is still a shepherd, right? We went over this last week in the pasture. David is just shepherding sheep in the pasture after he's been anointed as the future king of Israel. He's back in the pasture. And so Jesse, his dad, looks at him. And Jesse says, you're one of Jesse's sons. For those of you who weren't here last week, I can feel the looks right now. What is he talking about? But Jesse's like, hey, David, all of my other sons, you know, the real men of the house, the soldiers of the house, they're all at the battle fighting for their nation. So you know what? Why don't you leave those sheep be? We'll get one of the servants to take care of them for a bit. I need you to bring some breakfast to the warriors, you know, to your brothers, the real men. Why don't you bring some breakfast to them, see how the battle is going, and bring word back to me. So David arrives, surveys the situation, sees what's going on, and that's where we're going to jump into this amazing story. Y'all ever heard this story before? Because I don't want to give a spoiler alert. Okay, here we go. As he was talking with them, this is David talking with his brothers. Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. Now the Israelites had been saying, "Do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will grant wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage. And the best part, will exempt his family from taxes in Israel." Why does the author of 1 Samuel put that in there? Why? To show how impossible it is to defeat Goliath. Because the king is willing to give everything. I mean, the King Saul is like, if there is anybody who can defeat this guy, I will make you the richest person in all of Israel. I will let you marry my hot daughter. I will make you never have to pay taxes again. Is there anything else I can give you? You can have anything you want. I mean, I read the story and I'm just like, how is there not one guy, How is there not one guy that is so tired of life? Life has beat him up so much. He's so tired of every day doing this. And he's like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I don't have any kids. I'm not married. I don't have any money. I'm not nothing. You know what? If I'm going to die, I might as well take a shot. There's a 1 in a million chance. It's like a lottery, but maybe I'll get a lucky swing in and I'll get all this stuff. Not one person. That is how impossible Goliath was. The author wants to teach us that Goliath is impossible. There's no human being that can stand before Goliath. There's no human being that can even attempt to stand before Goliath. It's that impossible. David asked the man standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" So David asks again what the person who kills Goliath gets, because David can't believe it. Just like I said, why is no one taking him up on this offer? Like, why? I mean, David is just naive and just gullible enough maybe that he's been out in this pasture and he just doesn't understand how impossible this situation is. So he wants to hear it again. It's like, what? What will be done for the person who kills this person? They repeated to him what they had been saying and told him, this is what will be done for the man who kills him. When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men. Now, we had Eliab here last week in person, for those of you who missed it. We're not going to ask Eliab to come back up here, but he's here. When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness?" Why does he say that? Picture this. They're in front of a bunch of soldiers, right? And I could picture Eliab saying this with a loud voice. Eliab wants to make sure that this person who supposedly is talking tough, he wants to make sure that all the real soldiers know this is just a shepherd. This is just someone that's been out in the field. No military training here. Don't listen to this guy. This is like, you ever had somebody do that to you? This is just a waiter at the restaurant. This is just the guy who's backing up the real chef. This is just, they do that in front of the people you like, and you're like, maybe it's this girl, you're trying to get a date with or something, and you're just like, why are you saying that in front? That's what they're doing. This is what they're doing. I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle. Now, what have I done? Said David. Can't I even speak? He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." So David takes Saul to the pasture. You want to hear that sermon from last week again? Okay, I could skip that. Good. Because that's where David has been prepared for this. And I love it. The more I've thought about that as the week went on and looking into the second week of this series, I just keep thinking about the pasture. I think it even relates to churches, Like God will even put churches in the pasture. And a church may be kind of in this position where maybe it's kind of stuck in one place, right? But during that time where it's stuck in one place, it's like this interim period of time. During this time, God is talking to other people who start coming to the church, right? People are discovering gifts that they didn't know they had, passions that they didn't know they had. And behind the scenes in the pasture, God is preparing for the future. God is preparing for a great victory in Bandera, and we don't even know it's happening. Someone walks in the door. Someone before I even got here walks in the door during that interim time period and says, "You know what? I know a little something about this. Can I help?" And they get to work. And God is doing all of this stuff preparing for the battle. And we're going to talk about what that battle is in just a second. But before that, y'all know you're in trouble when I do that. I don't know if I've been here long enough yet for that, but y'all, who all here are rednecks like Pastor Tim and used to watch some wrestling? Nobody wants. Thank you. I love the honest people in the back. We used to watch it, and in wrestling, they would talk smack before the battle, right? Yeah, they'd be like, "This is what I'm going to do to you." Yeah. And so, in this scripture, Goliath walks up to David and basically says, "David, I am going to make you a corpse, and the birds of the air and the beasts of the field are going to feast on your corpse." And so everybody reading the Bible thinks that David is going to say, "Oh, mighty Goliath, God is on my side, and even though God loves you, I am going to have to defeat you." But that's not what David does. David talks smack right back to Goliath. He lets him have it. I love it. And you don't know this, and I don't like to brag much, but I went to seminary, and I know the music that was playing in the background while David talked this smack. Are you ready for this? Raise your hand if you're ready. Raise your hand if you're like, "Don't do it, Pastor Tim." Okay, here we go. This is it. This is David. You ready? Y'all recognize this? This is what was playing. You thought it was original and Rocky, but it wasn't. Here we go. David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by the sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is is the Lord's. Remember that. The battle is the Lord's. Everybody say the battle is the Lord's. It is. It's His. It sure as heck isn't Pastor Tim's. And He will give all of you into our hands. As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead, just like that. The stone sank into his forehead and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone without a sword in his hand. He struck down the Philistine and killed him. Woo! Yes, partner. Okay, that's a cool story, isn't it? Some of y'all didn't know what happened at the end of that story, but it's a great story. Anybody ever heard a sermon on David and Goliath before? Raise your hands. Yeah, okay. Yeah. How'd it go? Let's see. What's your Goliath? You can do it. Have faith like David and you can defeat Goliath. Some of you here today are about to take an exam in college. That exam is your Goliath and you're David. Defeat that exam. Some of you are like saving money for a down payment of a house, right? And the preacher's like, that down payment is Goliath. Come on, buckle up. You can have the faith and defeat it and you can have a house too, right? Everything is Goliath in our pop culture, you know? Like some of y'all, it's your mother-in-law, you know? Oh, Goliath. So that's one way you could look at this story. Or maybe, have you ever heard this? The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That's a good theme from the story, right? That's not really true, I don't even think. Because if you drop somebody from an airplane, it doesn't matter how big they were, they hit the same way. I don't know where that came from. I don't want to test it. So what is the point of the story? What is the point of the story? And it does teach some of that. Like, I'm not saying you can't use the inspiration from it to conquer your battles. But that important phrase, the battle is the Lord's. The battle is the Lord's. The battle is the Lord's. Do you know how a church succeeds in the Great Commission? By understanding that it's nothing they do. They're just obedient servants looking up to God and saying, the battle is the Lord's. Tell us what to do. Tell us where to go. Tell us who to talk to. Tell us what to start. The battle is the Lord's. This story is meant to teach us what the real Goliath is. That's one of the reasons that Goliath is gone out of their way to describe Goliath as this impossible force, because it is impossible for any of us to defeat Goliath. We can't do it. Look at this chart. I found interesting. This is comparing David to Jesus. David was born in Bethlehem. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. David came from a humble beginning. Jesus came from a humble beginning. David was said to have a heart like God's. Jesus literally had God's heart. David was a shepherd. Jesus was the good shepherd. David was sent into the battle by his father. Jesus was sent into the battle by his father. David was the only one to fight because he was the only one that could fight, and Jesus was the only one to fight because he was the only one in a position to take on the fight. David was rejected by his brothers. Jesus was rejected by his brothers. David used non-typical weapons to defeat Goliath. Jesus used non-typical weapons to defeat Goliath. David was left alone on the battlefield by himself to take on this giant. Jesus was left alone on the battlefield by himself to take on Goliath. David was Israel's victory. Jesus was our victory. David liberated all the helpless people of God who could not liberate themselves. Jesus liberated all of the helpless people like Pastor Tim who could not liberate himself. Salvation was given to the Israelites by David. Salvation is given to us by Jesus. The victory that David had gave them once and for all the promised land. The victory that Jesus had gives us the promised land. David, when he defeated Goliath, the Israelites did not have to lift a finger. They just got to celebrate. When Jesus defeated Goliath, we didn't have to lift a finger. We're just here to worship and to witness. So this story is a picture of the ultimate battle. There's an ultimate battle that has taken place and that still takes place, and we are a part of that battle. Did you know that you're a part of this battle? But what part are we? Who are we in this story? Let's look at it. We are, some of y'all look mad because you wanted to be David. You've always thought of yourself as David in this story, haven't you? You're David. You're going to defeat Goliath on your own. You have the faith. Nope. In this story, we are the cowards sitting on the sideline. There is no way any of us can stand before the giant and defeat him. It doesn't matter if they say, you get the king's daughter, you get to be rich, you get to not pay taxes. It doesn't matter what they tell us. None of us, none of the thousands, none of the millions who were in the Christian army can stand before Goliath. The battle is the Lord's. We do not have a chance. But in this story, David is Jesus. You probably figured that out by now. It was only Jesus who could stand in our place while we watched from the sideline and could take on the Goliath. And so if we're the Israelites are always what they call a type of the church going forward. You know, the church is kind of represented by Israel until the church is born. And if David is Jesus, you've probably already heard an allusion to that. David is a foreshadowing of Jesus. What is Goliath? Goliath is our separation from God. This is the gospel presented in 1 Samuel. You see, God is right here, and we are right here. And there's a big chasm between us, and we can't get to God except for Jesus. Let me ask you this. If I was to give you a brand new carton of milk, fresh from the cow, would you be excited? Yeah, I love milk. Hud loves milk. What if I told you, or what if I asked you, I had a little vial here of a virus. How many drops would it take for me to put into the milk before you looked at the milk as contaminated? How many? One. Anybody going to go for two? I don't think that first one spread much. No. What's that a picture of? God, our culture does not understand this. God is 100% perfection, holy, righteous, judge, loving, 100% all the time, absolute perfection. You see, all of us want to say, well, you know, I'm better than him. And we always come up with like an axe murderer in our minds, right? You know, like, hey, I'm much better than that axe murderer, so I get to go to heaven. That's what our culture likes to teach. Oh, that person had a really good heart. Well, it depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to the axe murderer, sure, you're a great person. What if you're comparing it to a 100% holy, never done a thing wrong, never had a bad thought, never had a lustful thought, never had a lying thought, never looked on anything as I want that, why does that person have it, never had a jealous thought? What if you were comparing yourself to that? Just like the milk. If God let one drop of unrepentant imperfection into heaven, it's not heaven. Imagine you're walking the streets of gold, in heaven, and you turn around, you're in the best mood, you're in heaven, and you turn around, and your unrepentant child molester is standing over there. How quickly does it not become heaven anymore? Now, I know that's an extreme example, but any little drop. And so, if that internal separation is Goliath, how can we take on Goliath? We can't. We have to have a David. We have to have a Jesus to stand between us and Goliath. And Jesus takes our place so we can go to heaven. We've lost that, really, haven't we? I mean, we still know it. Like if somebody gives you a Bible quiz, I bet you get the right answer, right? But our culture has lost it. We've lost it. And so, if Goliath is our eternal separation from God, which Jesus defeats, and all of us, all we have to do is accept it, and we get to go be with Jesus. It's that simple. We don't have to do anything. Well, Goliath is defeated. So, where is Goliath in the world now? Goliath is now represented by unbelief. Because all you have to do is accept what Jesus did, and you can go from here to there. But there are some people that Goliath still exists because they don't believe. It's a lack of faith, and that's where the story of David having faith comes into effect. It's all about faith. So what is our role in this world against Goliath? As the army of Christ, our role is to help people get from here to here, to witness and to worship, to spread the good news of great joy to all people. It really is that simple. Now, the church has a lot of roles, lots of roles, and we don't want to diminish the other roles. One of the things Jesus says is, hey, I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. That's one of the roles of the church. Another role is to make sure that our children and our youth grow up and learn more about the faith. That's a great role of the church. Another role of the church is to edify, to learn, to go to Bible study and to learn more so we can more accomplish that mission. But the number one role of a church is to find Goliath where he still exists in this world and help people overcome him. Make people understand that you don't need the sling. Jesus already used the sling. Jesus already defeated Goliath on the cross. All you have to do is accept it. Come. And so that's why we're going to be forming an outreach team. And we're not really we don't even really want everybody to join. That doesn't mean I don't want you to join. I'm just saying we want people that feel called to join. But here's the thing, even if you don't join the committee, there's a role for every single person in this room to play. Because that committee is going to come forth and say, okay, we have a couple ideas of how to get the people that are still battling with Goliath in the community to come to Jesus. We got to figure out a way to get them in the building. And if we get them in the building, we can love on them, we can talk to them, we can teach them, but we got to get them in here. And when the committee does that, every single person here from age 3 to age 100, maybe even 107, is going to have a role to play. Every single person. That is our most important job. All the little petty things fall away when you think about the main mission. When we're in heaven, all the other little things that a church goes through disappears. God isn't going to be up there going, well, how did you do this? What color was the carpet? Did you do it this way? Did you do it that way? God is going to say, how did you help people overcome Goliath in this world? I want to close with this. How many of you are like my daughter and you just love reading about natural disasters? She got out of this phase. She used to want to be a tornado chaser. I've always been fascinated by natural disasters too. You know, the one that we don't ever see is the tsunami. That's a disaster, right? You know, a tsunami'd have to be pretty bad for it to get here, you know, from the coast. But I told him in the first service, you know, Russell was there. I was like, hey, if it ever happens, I'm coming to your house. Those of you know where he lives, you understand that, because he's like, way up there. Tsunamis there was a really bad one in Southeast Asia. It's been a few years now. I want to say, it almost sounds ridiculous to say, but I want to say there's like 200,000 people died. It was like almost unbelievable. And I heard, it's been a while, but right after it happened, you would hear little stories from it. And there was one story that hit me because there was 3 brothers, and they were out on the beach. And all of a sudden, the water started going the other direction. A lot of you are smart and you know what that means. But a lot of other people had no idea. Like, because that seems like the opposite of a tsunami, right? Tsunami is supposed to come overwhelm you, not supposed to go the opposite direction. But they were standing there, and the beach was getting bigger and bigger because the water was going more and more out to sea. And so the 3 brothers would just start walking into what used to be the ocean bed. Like, this is crazy. Look at that seashell. Where is all the water going? It's like somebody is sucking the water out of here. And like more and more people, thousands of people are coming down to the beach, the last place you want to be, right? Because this is an amazing sight. And they didn't have like a warning system or anything to say, hey, get out of there. And so more and more people are going there. And one of the 2 brothers looked at the other 2 and said, I'm going to go check on the parents because there was the earthquake which caused the tsunami, and he was worried about the parents at home. And so he went back to check on the parents from the earthquake, and the other 2 kept going more and more in. And all of a sudden, they see in the distance a wave. And this wave has grown from 10 feet to over 70 feet tall. And it is flying at them at 75 miles per hour. Can you imagine the feeling of knowing it doesn't matter how hard you run, it doesn't matter who you call, it doesn't matter which direction you go, Goliath is coming. We're all going to face that, right? Christians, non-Christians, we're all going to have the final moment. And I know we don't like to talk about it in church. But for every single one of us, there is going to be a moment where it's there. Every single person in the world is going to face Goliath. But imagine in that moment, the 2 brothers are holding each other, they're bracing for impact, and right before the wave hits, Jesus appears and sucks out every water drop from that situation and takes them to heaven. That's what Jesus does. Pastor Tim is using an emotional story to make us see the gospel. Maybe I'm guilty of that. That's an exciting story of the end. Most stories are much worse. As a pastor, you're with people at the end a lot. And there's a huge difference when you're with someone that knows Jesus and when you're with someone who is still looking Goliath right in the eyes. Church, there is nothing in this world more important than helping people get past Goliath. Whatever you can do. Maybe it's to join the outreach team. Maybe it's to support the outreach team. Maybe it's to give more to the church. Maybe it's to serve in different areas. Maybe it's to start talking to people you work with, people that work underneath you that you don't think believe in Jesus. Invite them to church. I don't know what it is. I just know that the battle is the Lord's. and we're the Israelites. Our job is not to fight. Our job, just like we said, for those of you who were there that very first week, when we talked about the Battle of Armageddon, they were there in the Battle of Armageddon to what? To witness and to worship, not to fight. That's what we're here to do as well. To worship God and to witness to those who don't know the free gift of Jesus. Free gift. Let's pray.